Hello everyone, it is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, and today we are going to go over my mastery of perfect numbers. Okay, format. I found a counterexample, or what the mathematicians would call a counterexample. In layman's terms, I found a YouTube video where somebody claimed to have found an odd perfect number. So in this video, what I'm going to do is both using my proof, or I guess if you want to call it conjecture, to disprove it, and then also to disprove it how the ancients, or up till now, they would have been able to disprove it as well. All right, so that's the YouTube video that is supposed to be the counterexample. And I admit, if you watch it, it's clickbaity, and they talk about how they developed it with Mandelbrot sets or fractals or whatever. It's clickbaity, but the number they came up with is actually really, really good from a teaching point of view, which is why I'm doing this video in the first place. So that's a screenshot of the comment section in that video. And so we're going to break this down into two parts. The top comment is from the guy that actually made the video, who's just responding to the comments on the video. And he describes the factorization of that number that he proposes as an odd perfect number. But he doesn't do factorization properly. What he makes is basically a type of a number that's called a primorial. But this is how you properly do factorization of numbers. As I described in previous videos, or at least the past video, that's the factorization of 8128, which is a perfect number. But that shows, as I said before, that all perfect numbers are just Mersenne primes times a bunch of twos. And it has to be that way, and they need all the twos because they need to form a geometric sequence that's asymptotic, which we've also talked about before. All right, so you could write down that number from that screenshot, but I'll do you a solid. Is this number an odd perfect number? Okay, first I'll disprove this is an perfect number, odd perfect number, with my own proof, which is this. Okay, long story short on this one, and we'll probably talk about it in the future, but what my proof is saying is that the perfect numbers have inherent symmetry in that they have to represent all of the primes and the prime squareds as it applies to the digital roots in the equation. And so the first thing we can do is see if that odd number that I showed you, how it conforms to my proof. First check, 1 mod 9 line. So all I did was took that number, minus 1 divided by 9, and as you can see, it's not a whole number, so it does not reside on the 1 mod 9 line. Next check, 4 mod 6 line. That number, minus 4 divided by 6, again, is not a whole number, so it does not reside on the 4 mod 6 line. Lastly, the 7 mod 3 line, and that number, minus 7 divided by 3, does not make a whole number, so it does not reside on the 7 mod 3 line either. Okay, so that number fails my criteria miserably because it doesn't lie on any of the lines, let alone all three of the lines that would constitute it to be a perfect number in my theorem, which all 51 numbers conform to, I think. But the only way that there could be an odd perfect number with my theorem is if there were a perfect number that lie on the 1 mod 9 line and the 3 mod 7 line. They always have to have the same numbers, but did not lie on the 4 mod 6 line. It's the 4 mod 6 line that messes everything up if you're trying to find a contradiction to this, because all numbers on the 4 mod 6 line have to be even by definition to infinity. So now we're going to segue of how the ancients would have disproved it, or the modern theory of perfect numbers, and why that number still can't be a perfect number. And it again starts with the screenshot from the Veritasium video. So numbers can be described in different ways, but perfect numbers, let me just say it this way. They can be described as lines, magnitudes, or areas, square or rectangles. They can be described as volumes, cuboids, or they can be described as four-dimensional objects, which is hard to imagine. But the very best way to describe them is as volumes, cuboids, or what you can make out of them. So that is the screenshot of this video, and that is the best way to imagine perfect numbers, except they're all odd squares. So that second one in the picture, the one that's 2 by 2, take that out. It's just all odd squares. So it's 1 on the top, and then 3 times 3 is 9. And then the next square is 5 times 5 is 25. And then the next square is 7 by 7. You can see it gets real big real fast. All right, and so finally, that's, again, the ancient description of what an odd perfect number could be and why this number cannot be that. And this is probably the best explanation. In that formula, and we'll talk about the 4k plus 1, because you may glean some of that out of what my last screenshot. But what Euler and Descartes are saying, and what I've alluded on in the last video, is if there were to be an odd perfect number, it would have to be some prime times some odd area. It can't be an even area. It has to be an odd, like 3 times 3 equals 9, or 5 times 5 equals 25. It can't be an even number. That's what all current prime or perfect numbers are. But if there were an odd perfect number, it would have to be an prime, because that's odd by definition, times an area that was also odd, and that would be the only way to get an odd perfect number. But for so many reasons, that can't make that pyramid. And so I did a little analysis in the last couple days, and I'm just going to give you the screenshot, but the longer you look at it, you can see why the numbers grow so fast, or so high so fast, and why there's only certain numbers that can be Mersenne primes. So in conclusion, why can't that number be a perfect number, odd perfect number? Well, it didn't pass any of my mod tests. And on the ancient tests, where it falls out is that it's a very large prime number multiplied by 27, which is an odd number, which gives an odd, very large odd number, but it does not pass even the ancients test, because it's a very large prime number times a cube, not a square. 27 is a cube, but it's not a square, because if you try to square root of 27, you get an irrational number. So again, one more time, it passed that, or it fails that test, because the ancients test, because it is a very large prime number multiplied by a cube, not a square. All right, signing off. As always, rule number one, do not touch each other without another person's consent, aka do not hurt each other. And rule number two, it's all about honesty. Lies are a takedown, aka try not to lie. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.